very happy to introduce Angélique Bosio, who produced a documentary about, I guess, one of the most famous underground queer filmmakers in the world, Bruce LaBruce. And first I must say that I find the title very glamorous. It's great. How did you get to it?
The title?
Yeah.
It came from a letter. I had already started filming it, and I was reading this letter from Kurt Cobain from the end of year 93, and he was writing he had been interviewed by The Advocate, and he was writing this letter to The Advocate, I think, and he said, I would always be an advocate for fagdom. And later he was talking about Bruce's films that were the most hilarious erotic films he had ever seen. So I just took the Advocate for Fagdom quote, which was not about Bruce directly, but since the letter talked about him as well, I stole the title.
Okay, it's great. It sounds really, really great. But then I was thinking, I really love the documentary, but why did you want to do a documentary about Bruce LaBruce? Because I felt that I wasn't sure if it fits his style or like his image, you know, like doing a documentary about Bruce LaBruce. Is that sounds very conventional and conservative. I don't think that the documentary is conservative,
yeah,
but it's like, why do you want to do that about Bruce LaBruce? He's so extreme and out of any category and convention you would think. I think the movie also shows that he's not sometimes, but why did you do this documentary? What for?
Well, first, Bruce said once that it was strange that he had a documentary about him in the middle of his career.
Yes,
you know,
it is really weird.
So that's true, but I can't wait for him to die to do something about him. That's impossible. Really, that's depressing. So no, but why I wanted to make documentaries, I want to be able to talk about people that are creating art right now, and that maybe not mainstream enough for the most people to know them. And I think a certain form of documentary that seem rather classical, or as you say, we probably make more documentaries about something that's ended already. So maybe it will bring more people that would not know about Bruce LaBruce in another way to know his work. I think the form, the very classical form, simple, because my documentary it's not an experimental documentary. I think it could bring more people to gain some interest in his work.
How did you come across Bruce LaBruce? How did you meet him and his work in a way?
I met him for my first documentary. I wanted to interview him. And I met him in Berlin, something like 9 years ago. And he was kind enough to welcome us on the set of his film Raspberry Reich at the time with Susanne Sachse. So I interviewed him at Jürgen Brüning's office, and then we spent the night with them on the shoot. So, and that was, I don't know if you saw Raspberry Reich, but I think you have.
I haven't watched it yet. It's really horrible. I haven't. Yeah.
Oh my God. I can sell you the film.
Please.
If you want.
There's the businesswoman coming through.
It's a very funny scene in a lift where the couple has sex in a lift, and so we spend the night, you know, with the light turning off, and oh no, my God, the shot is ruined because the light, you know, came off, and the lift going up and down like that. We spent the night doing this, just filming sex in a lift that wasn't really working.
All night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Partly, yeah.
This must have been exhausting for the poor actors to be like all night.
I think that was pretty exhausting for them, but yeah.
How did you actually first meet his artwork, though?
Oh, I can't really remember. I think the first film I saw was Super 8.5 or Oslo White years ago. I don't know. Maybe when I was working on my first documentary and I was searching for... the name of Bruce LaBruce was familiar. I think I had seen Super 8.5 at one point. I can't remember exactly when. And so I knew his films, and I really loved Super 8.5. And then I watched the other ones. But what I didn't know before I really started the documentary was all his involvement with Glenn Belverio and Glenda and Friends, the TV show in the 90s, and how much he was some kind of a fantastic activist, really unique, in a really unique way. And that fascinates me.
I really also think that this unique way is very fascinating. And I was wondering, where it comes from, because I kind of believe you can always explain why people go into certain directions. And I guess if you look at his childhood and at his upbringing, growing up in a very rural kind of landscape area of Canada, being absolutely isolated and not having the possibility of developing his own sexuality in a way, I was wondering if this is very much a crucial part of his later identity and of the way he chose to go.
I think it's always part of that, but I think it's really difficult to dig in that and to find the very pure, sheer reasons. I mean, there are many things. There are encounters, there are opportunities, there are mistakes that make you what you are. So I think, of course, where he was brought up has a great importance in what he is. And Gus Van Sant told me about a picture that I couldn't use because there are many family members of Bruce, and it's a picture with this huge family, like uncle, aunts, cousins, brothers and sisters, and parents, of course. And Gus Van Sant was describing it as a very, ordinary farmer from Canada, really all dressed the same, kind of retro thing. And there was one guy that was standing out, with his style and the way he was dressed and his hair, and that was Bruce, and that he was really standing out of it. So I think it's a question of nature as well, that even very young in his family, he had already that thing going on. But
that's beautiful, though. It's beautiful. It's calming me down in a way that it's the nature that does it. And but what other crucial parts in his biography maybe have led, or what did you find out during your research, have led a little bit his way?
I don't know. So, it's difficult for me because I took him as he is, and I never tried to find out why, as if it wasn't normal. I mean, it's like what John Waters said, I never questioned his name. It's Bruce LaBruce, and his parents are Mr. and Mrs. LaBruce and dot. And so I think I think that's him. I never questioned, like, oh my God, what happened in his childhood? Like to me, it would be like saying, oh, you're queer, then what happened in your childhood? So maybe I'm a very bad journalist, or I wondered the wrong question, but I really took him as he is.
Yeah, I guess just sometimes for me it's interesting. I totally agree on the point that you don't have to, dig deep, and that's impossible probably also. But sometimes they're just like crucial experiences or encounters, as you said, that really, transform or change people and make them, to who they are. But
I think that the fact that he was very young in the 80s and during the presidency of Reagan, because at that time he was living a lot in America and in New York, and I think the fact that he actually saw that nothing was done about AIDS, because he's been talking about it a lot when I met him 9 years ago, and again when we were shooting this documentary. So I think that was a really important point in his life. I think he must have seen friends die out of it and things like that, and so I think it's a fundamental thing about him. But it's true that I don't go really deep in his mind and childhood and stuff like that. Maybe it's a mistake, and maybe I missed something there, but...
Well, I think there's a lot of other interesting stuff. You cannot cover everything, and I think there's so many... Also, the way that you chose a lot of his friends and people that influenced him. You already mentioned Gus Van Sant and John Waters. And what do you think, what kind of quality do they add to the movie with their statements and their comments about him?
Oh, well, then first I would talk about Harmony Korine, I think. Because when I saw that interview and the way he had dressed up and how he was talking about Bruce, I said, oh, great, we're having a completely non-interview there. And, he talks about homo-core people as really angry homosexuals and homosexuals that like to carry knives. And you're like, what the hell? And I think he has the same kind of humor that Bruce can have, and this character that he builds for himself as Bruce does. So for instance, Harmony Korine is someone that will add some humor and that is someone that is not afraid of words. So he's gonna say fag when he wants to say fag, and he's gonna say really horrible things when he wants to. He's gonna build up stories that are completely wrong, but that, you know, there's always an inch of truth about it. So, for example, Harmony Korine brings that humor that Bruce has too, but in another way. And John Waters, well, I think they're very similar in terms of work, in terms of how to have fun, to make fun of representations of transsexuals, of men and women, and sexual habits. And so I think all these people have, to start with, have a real intimacy with Bruce, friendship, relationship. Then they all share something with him. And for me, it's a way to show other aspects of Bruce without using Bruce always, but letting other people express themselves. And seeing that he's not, I mean, that he's not just working for himself, that there are people that are sharing his identity, his thoughts, his work.
The big contradiction.
The big
contradiction of him being married and at the same time a strong opposer of heteronormativity. Yeah, and I think that you were really well in portraying.
I think I know what you mean.
Portraying this, yes.
Yeah.
Did you intend this? This is
Did
really
I intend
professional.
that? Yeah, we are very professional. Are you kidding? So, yes, actually, no. I was obsessed with one sentence when I was editing, and it was a quote from Ernest Hardy, who was saying that he loved the contradictions about Bruce and the fact that he had to find a way to balance his politics and real life, and that was life was all about, and art was all about. That seems really naive, but I really like this thing because at one point you feel kind of free to say, yeah, I'm going to fight for the rights of blah, 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 but then something happens in your life and that touches you directly, you know, in places you wouldn't have imagined before, and you're ready to do something, and you're not denying yourself. And I think you can defend or fight against ideas and find the complexity of life, and find that the complexity of life and people can allow you to do something really similar, but I like that freedom.
Yeah.
I really like that. I want to be able to contradict myself and not to say, oh, I'm a very nice girl, and you know, and I won't be able to be a mean girl in another situation. That's a shitty example, but no, I like the fact that you can fail. I like the fact that you can fall. I like the fact that you can really do something that is against everything that you've ever believed in before. That's, yeah.